Hello again, this is sflogicninja or David Earl. You can call me whatever you like, as long as it's either sflogicninja or David Earl. Anyway, yeah, I guess I'm known as the Bob Ross of logic training now. So thought maybe for this episode, go for the real, Bob Ross had the most amazing fro. So, yeah. There we go. That's nice. So, on to the ES2 portion of our logic video adventure. So you decided you wanted to get into the ES2. Well, here we go. Alright, check it out. The ES2 is one of the more complicated synthesizers built into logic, but it's built on some fundamental principles. So the first one is this area right here is your oscillators. These are the different waves that you're going to use. Okay? This area here is the filter. This is basically filtering these waves. Okay? Oscillators, making the waves. Filter, filtering the waves. Amplitude, output, effects. Okay, so we get our volume, we get distortion, we get a chorus and flanging and phasing and stuff. This is basically the output section. So our waves go into the filter, which go into our output. Okay, so check it out over here in the waves. When I first opened the ES2, it has this kind of a patch. Alright, well, there's a lot going on in there for a default patch. So what I might want to do is cut things down a bit. So I'm going to turn off oscillator 3 by clicking here, and I'll turn off oscillator 2 by clicking here, so that I'm left with oscillator 1. Okay? Oscillator 1 gives me a choice of different waves here. So I might choose just a sine wave. Okay? The major waves that you use in synthesis are sine waves, square waves, sawtooth waves, sometimes triangle waves. Okay? Sine wave, it's just a fundamental. It's only one tone. It doesn't have anything to filter, so the filter isn't going to make any difference on a sine wave. But all these other ones, they have plenty of stuff going on. So when you pop it through a filter, any of these other ones besides a sine wave, they'll actually, you'll hear it affected by the filter. So there's my sine wave playing. Now it's kind of slow. It's got a slow attack and a slow decay. So the first thing I might do is come over here. We've got 3 different envelopes. Envelope 1, envelope 2, and envelope 3. Envelope 3 is hardwired to do volume. What an envelope is how it changes a parameter over time. So in this case we have attack, decay, sustain, and release as applied to volume. Attack is going to be how long it takes to come on. Decay is how long it takes to get down to the sustain stage. Okay, so if I have a very short attack, it's going to come on immediately. And if I have my sustain level right about here and I have my decay very, very short, it'll just immediately. Okay, so if I keep it held down, when I'm holding it down, that's called the sustain stage. Now the release stage is when I let go of the key. So I'll turn that all the way down. Cool. And maybe I'll take the intensity down on these effects. So it's just a very The great thing about sine waves is if you're building a bass sound, it's the coolest thing in the world to have a really low sine wave, because really low sine waves sound good when they're really low. So maybe I'll add in another wave now. The intensity of oscillator 1 is affected also by this little square. If this is turned all the way up to the top, we get nothing but oscillator 1. Okay, so I'm going to turn on oscillator 2. So I'm mixing in another wave. I'll make this one a sawtooth wave. That sounds pretty good. But my iMovie's freaking out a little bit. Sorry about that. So, now what's funny is there's some other modulation going on. This isn't just the two waves being mixed together, because we can hear it changing. It's all sweeping and doing all that kind of stuff. That's due to this section here. Okay? See all these green arrows? If you want to default a patch out, just click right here. It'll turn all of the, if you click on these little dots, it'll turn all these parameters to 0. So that your patch is back to a completely default setting. There we go. Okay, and I'll get into this section in a minute, but I'm just turning all these green things to the middle so that they don't affect it positively or negatively, any part of the sound. Alright, so now that's a pretty good bass sound right off the bat. The simpler a bass sound is, the better it's going to translate into a track. Okay, now another thing that's happening here is I've got something called a vector. And what the vector is doing is, over a period of time, it's changing the mix and X and Y. So this, it's basically moving this all around. Okay, that's what this vector setting is. X target is pan, Y target is off. Maybe I'll turn this off as well. There you go, that's a little better. And then maybe I will also turn the vector mode off. For a default patch, boy, they sure did have a lot of stuff going on. So vector, X target off, Y target off, vector mode off. Okay, now I'll go back to router. Okay, so in the router I turned all these to 0. Okay, and then I went to vector, and I just turned X target off, Y target off, vector mode off. Okay, the reason I did that is because I want to make sure that this is totally, what's happening up here is going to be completely unmolested by this stuff down here. Okay? Now, I do want this section here to be active. But in order for this section, and these sections to be active, LFO1, LFO2, envelope 1, envelope 2, the only way they can be active is if you activate them in this area here, which is called the router. And the router allows you to assign these to control any stuff up here. Okay? So right now I'm back to my nice default bass sound, simple as it gets, and I'm going to leave that for now, just to show you guys how to take a default patch to its default settings. Maybe I'll add in one more oscillator. And on this oscillator, what I'll do is maybe I'll detune it. And see how I can mix between the different oscillators. Okay, so tomorrow I'll probably get into vector faders and things like that, but it's getting late. So ES2 Part 2 coming in tomorrow.